We're talking the 20s are wrong, and you're listening to TRT broadcast in New York City.
Okay, and what are your thoughts on prohibition?
Absurd. Absolutely absurd. I think that these working men, myself included, want to be able to go to the bar after a long day at work and be able to relax, and we just can't do that anymore with the 18th Amendment.
You know, I think that the Volstead Act and the 18th Amendment didn't do what it meant to do. I think it was a good idea. Like, I think they had the right ideas in mind, but there's no way you could tell billions of people that they can't drink anymore. And I think all it really did was create more problems with this black market and these gangs and bootlegging and making your own alcohol at home. It's just, you can't get rid of it. There's no way to get rid of it.
I mean, what does Chicago look like now? It's absolutely chaotic. I think that the prohibition with the Volstead Act and the 18th Amendment just caused a snowball effect and ended up causing way more than we really thought could happen.
You know, I agree. I just don't think that things like alcohol, which are so easy to obtain, can be contained in any way. Now, let's talk about urban versus rural areas. Do you think that these problems, these big city problems, can be found in other places like the South as well? Or do you think that the big cities are the only people who are experiencing this?
I think that big cities, it's a totally different lifestyle. We're talking about industrial jobs. While the South, they're still into farming and family life. Well, here life is changing. I certainly don't think that they have problems with gangs like we do and crime, but I also think that there are some similarities. Like if you think about the new KKK being involved, that's some ultra conservatives, and their biggest problems are with the new ideas coming in, with communism being something that everybody's afraid of. It's not just the urban or just the rural areas, and the evolutionists versus the people who believe in their religion, and I think that might still be a problem in both areas. I think that work is different, and yeah.
You're right. I think that we definitely experience different problems in different areas. But I do think also that maybe the industrial part of America is definitely in some way ahead of the other parts of America in terms of what we're getting into and the new technology. But everywhere we experience different things, and it's really based on what issues in your area that you have to face every day.
Sheila, you brought this up earlier with modernism versus fundamentalism. I don't know if you guys have heard, but the recent Scopes trial, or the monkey trial, between John Scopes and Education in Tennessee, I'd like to ask you guys' opinion on that.
Bert, I have to say, as someone who is as religious as I am and I read the Bible, I just don't think that people should be brainwashing these children at such a young age, trying to tell them that the things that they say and they read in the Bible are just not real because science says so. I don't think that these children should have to learn about that and forced to sit there. They're not forced to sit there and read the Bible, and yet here we are, and we're forced to sit and talk about evolution and the creation of man, and tell me that I was made from a fish. Like, I find it hard to believe that anybody could get away with that.
Now, for the audience at home, I just want to clarify that the monkey trial was a trial held in Dayton, Tennessee, against a teacher, a biology teacher, John Scopes, and he was accused of teaching against the Bible and the creation of man in a classroom, and they held a trial for this, and the fundamentalists with William Jennings Bryan was against Clarence Darrow and John Scopes on the subject.
You know, Sheila, going back to what you said, I don't think that this should be a problem. I think that teaching science should be allowed, and these students should be able to sit there and develop their own opinions. And if they read the Bible and they believe in it, and they get taught this evolution and choose not to believe in evolution, then that's their choice, and they stuck to God. But if they do end up believing in evolution and turning towards that route and believing in science, then I think that the only thing that does is really help people who believe in the Bible, because they're weeding out the people who don't really truly believe in the religion.
You know, Sam, I can see where you're coming from with that, but at the same time, I think that it could be very confusing for the children. If, one, they're sitting at home with their mother and father, and they're talking about how God created Adam and Eve and all this stuff, and then they go to school and their teacher's like, no, that's not what happened, this is what happened. You could see how a kid might easily get confused with, like, what they're thinking, and you can't just get taught one way of life and suddenly or someone else is coming in and telling you something different. I can see, like, how that isn't fair to the children, I think.
Oh, wait. Sheila, did, you say that evolution meant we came from fish? Oh, Sheila.
You know, Bert, you get the point, okay?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, well, we'll be back after these few announcements by our sponsors.
Be happy, go lucky. Our divine cigarette combines truly fine tobacco and rich taste. Be happy, go lucky. Lucky Strike cigarettes. If you can't drink, how about a Coke? Coca-Cola.
Before the break, we briefly mentioned how standardized living changed, so I want to talk about what's your opinion on the new modernized life.
I think my favorite part about this time period is the automobile by Henry Ford. The Model T, I actually just bought it. It's absolutely amazing. And our new advancements in television and watching movies, the silent movie, The Jazz Singer, absolutely amazing. Outstanding acting.
You know, I have to say I agree, and I'm also a big fan of jazz. Louis Armstrong is one of my favorites, and I think that it's brought us together as coming from New Orleans and the blacks and the whites being able to perform together. I think it's absolutely amazing, and I just love being able to get together and have a good time. I think that's really what this new pop culture has brought for us.
What's that dance called where you swing your legs? You know what I'm talking about, like back and forth, back and forth?
Oh, you mean the Charleston dance? Ah, I love the Charleston. Dance with me.
Yeah. Alright, well, like we said, I think that entertainment has brought families together and... Sheila, Bert, come back. And what's your opinion on the Red Scare?
I think that after what Vladimir Lenin said, that he wants worldwide power with communism and the Bolshevik Revolution, I think we should be afraid.
How, Bert? You really think that we should be afraid? It's all the way in Russia, and we're in America.
But think about how easily things spread. Think about religion, how easily that spread, huh?
I agree in a way with Bert, but I also agree with you, Sheila. I think that things could spread quickly, but I don't think that we should be treating the immigrants the way we do.
Oh, I think we're treating the immigrants just fine. I think the emergency quota was the way to go with 3% of people and their nationalities coming in, and I think the Immigration Act of 1924 was even better. We need to restrict our immigration and allow America itself to prosper and take care of our people.
Bert, you say take care of our people, but what about the Palmer raids? I think we're accusing our own people and we're pointing fingers, and you're thinking, oh, just because this person is from a foreign country, that means they must be bad. And I don't think that's how Americans should be treating each other.
Since you brought that up, I'd like to talk about the Vanchetti and Sacco case, where 2 immigrants were put to death.
I just think that's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. There was no evidence of them doing anything besides having ideologies of radicalism. And that's not fair justice system, and it goes against everything we talk about. There was no evidence against them.
Enough on that. Let's talk about the new Ku Klux Klan.
I think that, again, going against the Constitution, I think that they have the right to freedom of speech, although I don't agree.
You're right, Sheila. Although I don't agree with what they're saying, they're nativists and they're against foreigners, they're against Catholics, they're against African Americans, they're against Jews, they're against communists, they're against evolutionists, they're against everything. Can we stop it? Not necessarily.
I don't think that we have a right to stop it with the freedom of speech, but I hope that it does. I really do.
And last but not least, let's talk about women.
I really think it's amazing how far women have come and taking control over their lives. I think that they should have a right to work. They have a right to play sports. They have a right to drive cars, and they have a right to be independent. And this is beautiful that it's starting to happen now that we see women taking a charge.
I also think it's great that women are taking control when it comes to contraceptives and birth control and being able to have a right to their own bodies. When we look at people like Margaret Sanger and Alice Paul who are making these great changes for women, it's amazing.
I don't know if I agree. I think these flappers are just taking on a role too much for themselves. I think that we need to work slowly when it comes to these type of things, and that men are coming back from the war and they want their jobs back. I think they have a right to having their jobs back after fighting for our country.
And that wraps up our evening. You're listening? The 20s are roaring, and we'll be back next Wednesday on the TR2 in New York City.
A word from our sponsors.
Oh, Oreo, a delicious snack. Buy today, pay tomorrow.